For that, Nick, for writing it, and something putting it. That's very cool. The piece I'm going to read is kind of a dark piece, and I'm just thinking, I'm going to give you the artistic liberty if you want to write a piece in response to what I'm going to read. I think maybe you might have a deep understanding of what I'm going to read. This piece doesn't have any inquiry in it. When I finished my thesis and I defended it, I knew that this was a good piece of writing, but I put it away because I needed to recover from this. And this piece that I'm going to read, I wrote it in response to something that happened to my mom. And so I went to her, and I said, I'm going to read this to you out loud because I want you to hear me read it and not just see the words on the page. And I'm going to ask your permission to include it, because when you publish your thesis, when you defend your thesis, it gets bound and published. So I asked her permission to have it in my thesis, and I said that, you know, at some point this may get published elsewhere. Can I have your permission to do that? And she gave me permission, and that is a real gift from her to me. We have an agreement. When she's present in the room, I don't read the piece, because it hurts too much. So she's not here. I'm reading this because you asked me to read it. But it is an honor. It's called Critical Race Theory at Canadian Tire. Three days after submitting Chapter 4, I'm still unable to be angry in Cree, so let me be angry in English. Mom, having never before told me she has bad days, let alone rough weeks, has had a rough week. She tells me two stories. Two things happened to her, but she wanted to wait until I'd finished Chapter 4 before telling me. I think I've had it rough, accused of appropriation, misrepresentation, for writing in Cree while wearing white. Skin, that is. Mom's first story, involving toilet paper, has the potential for great humor. This first story, however, is far from funny. While shopping at Canadian Tire, Mom spies a brand of toilet paper she likes in someone's buggy. Where did you find that toilet paper? She asks the woman with the buggy. What? Snaps the woman. What aisle did you find that toilet paper in? Mom asks again. You're an Indian, and I don't help Indians, sneers the woman from another country. Let's just say, a warm country. The woman probably thinks my mother, who neither has nor wants treaty entitlements, is a freeloader. The second story is still too hard to tell.
Thank you very much. I should say Ms. McIlwraith and I, just like Mr. Howells and I, we'd never met each other till yesterday, and in Mr. Howell's case, till today, because of the bad weather. We've only corresponded by email. We hadn't even spoken on the phone before. And I never told Ms. McIlwraith what poems until just before we walked in this room. I had no idea of the resonance in your life. I mean, I read through the book and I said, we've got to do something with this. And with Mr. House, the same. It's quite interesting to see the intuitive dialogue that had already begun before we met. Well, here's one of the seminar members from yesterday. The same, because we just heard music, New Kids on the Block, step by step, one word, one sentence, one paragraph, a tweet, a title, a word. And again, they have absolutely no reference. They did not know the author. They did not know the title of the book. They did not know the name of the poem. They knew nothing for what was on that page. And here's one of them. One word, typical. One sentence, I know this story. One paragraph, I know this story because I grew up brown in a white town. I know this story because having written this sentence, you will know who I am, even if you don't know my name. I know this story because I knew what it's like to be brown and live on an Indian reserve where the worst poverty is found inside. Now, I mostly have compassion for the woman from another country. We can take care of ourselves. It is the angry and spiteful people who need love and understanding. Stream of consciousness? I'm wondering about the second story. At this stage in my life, at least with respect to the first story, I'm just remembering knowing that dirty and brown were words that existentially went together for me. Interesting that the poet is having problems being white on the outside. I guess that's the thing. Regardless of color, shape, or size, we've all got problems. The skinny, white, pretty girl may just have returned from forcing herself to throw up in the bathroom. The basketball jock may like the guys in the locker room. Definitely not cool in some circles. I know a very brown girl from Wetaskiwin who never knew racism. There's a power each of us has inside us to rise above whatever limitations we've been given. It's our responsibility to access that capacity. Playing the victim? Stop there. Tweet number 1. Hold your head high. Tweet brown and white. Tweet number 2. She doesn't help Indians, but she does need our help. Tweet racism. Tweet toilet paper. It all comes out brown. Tweet, your color doesn't matter. title, they titled this, Indians Don't Need Help. I wrote this title because I disagree with what I hear the poet is trying to say. Implicit in the story is that the woman has some power over her mom. At least that's my sense of the message. My title indicates that with respect to dignity and self-worth, brown people don't need help.
There's a lot there. Thank you to whoever wrote that. Actually, I think you make a good point that the woman, the reason I didn't want to identify the race of the woman, I didn't want to play that game, but it was really important to me to let you know that she wasn't white. That racism is just not unidirectional, that it's every direction. So I'm going to leave it to you to imagine what shade of brown or whatever she was. So I agree with whoever wrote that she really needs help. If she, this happened 6 years ago, I think. You think we're so educated, so far advanced, and so enlightened that we don't have to deal with these problems. It's quite a long story. Now I won't tell it, but we lived beside people for 34 years, and they harbor the same hatred towards my mother. And so I have a lot of anger toward them because they're hurting my mother. They'll talk to me because I'm white and they're white. They won't talk to her. And she's not she's not a dark brown, but we still have this problem. I think I'll leave it there.
Well, we really are coming to, is that your final question? Who would like to ask Ms. McIlwraith the question? Yes, thank you for raising your hand too. Appreciate that.
I had the pleasure of hearing you speak yesterday in Paul Harlan's class, actually. So hearing this poem read again was awesome. I really, I found that I could connect with this. I grew up in the same kind of thing where I look very white, and so I'm too white for the Aboriginals, but I'm Aboriginal, so I'm not white enough for the white people as well. So I grew up with that. And you say that in the beginning of the poem, you discuss how you don't know the Cree well enough to be angry in Cree, so you're going to say it in English. I wanted to ask you how your journey through learning Cree has helped you to better identify as a Métis woman, like how that has changed, like how you view yourself, I guess, as both. Because like as Métis people, we're both European and Aboriginal, but yet we're unique in that we are our own kind of identity as well. So I was wondering how learning Cree has helped you to better identify as Métis, or how that has changed for you.
Thanks, Brittany, for asking that question. The first thing that kind of popped into my head was there's a woman from Saddle Lake who I hadn't seen for quite a long time, and I saw her about a month ago. And we were taking a Cree class together 10 years ago, and she's a First Nation, she's a treaty woman, she has First Nation status, and she kind of has red hair, freckles, green eyes, not very dark skin. And she said the very same thing that she experiences a reverse form of racism. That was sort of the first thing that went through my mind. So in response, like to answering your question, my mom, I can tell this second story. My mother never really talked about this. This was something she carried inside herself until the last 10 years. And then when I started doing this, it was really, really hard she asked me, why do you want to know this stuff? Why do you want to do this? Now we're at a place where she shares that with me. The second story, it happened that same week. My mom was a nurse, and she's been retired for a number of years, and she had some friends that she'd worked with for many, many years, and one of them was a nursing aide, and then stopped being a nursing aide and married a man. They became outfitters and traveling through mountains with horses. And they knew an Aboriginal painter, an artist. And he painted this beautiful mountain scene with horses for them, and my mom was at their place and noticed this beautiful painting on the wall. And she commented on it, and her friend, this is a good friend, said, yeah, that's our friend, I don't know what his name was, Jerry, whatever. Yeah, our friend, Jerry gave to that, he gave that to us. And she said, he's native, but that's okay, he gave us that gift. So that was the second story. And there were three of them there, and my mom's other friend, Pat, kind of said something to the other friend about it. The woman who said this is a good friend of my mom's. And my mom doesn't hold any grudges. They got together for lunch last week. So it's so, the first story is just so in your face. It comes out around toilet paper. But the second story, it's so subtle that she wasn't even aware of that in herself. So, how does that inform where I am as a Métis person? I was in my 40s where I became self-conscious about being white. That's a very strange feeling, but it helps me empathize with someone like Nick or my mom, or anybody else who is brown and experiences racism. So I guess it's made me a better person.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, since we're in a chapel and a university of Lutheran roots, I'll quote arguably the most famous of the Scandinavian theologians, Søren Kierkegaard, who often spoke of a leap of faith and how he proceeded in, quote, fear and trembling. This was a leap of faith, this dialogic session. Mr. Howes, Ms. McIlwraith, we've never collaborated before. They had no idea what they were getting into, and they made the leap. And I think you have perhaps appreciated that they took that step of faith to dialogue among us with you. I have the privilege of being here as a distinguished visiting fellow. I'm going to be in Camrose until next Tuesday. I would welcome the opportunity to meet, to dialogue with you. My email is normancornett@gmail.com. And if you want to pursue talking about this dialogic philosophy of arts and education, I'd welcome the opportunity here in Camrose at Augustana as its distinguished visiting scholar. I'd like to thank the university for making this possible. Now, you folks have not seen really the spirit. The spirit's unseen, right? Well, we're going to incarnate the spirit behind the symposium. We have Mr. Howes, Professor Schlosser, Ms. McIlwraith. We have a silent partner who made this all happen, and that's Professor William Hackler. Please give him a round of applause.